So I've been tracking my income and expenses in a spreadsheet that I built for the last 10 years. And so now that it's the end of December, let's talk about where my money went in 2025. I'm going to be rounding up by like the nearest $100 just to make things simple. But to start out with, this year I made $115,600 or $9,700 per month. And that's like after tax cash in my hand that I can allocate to my spending in my budget. Of that $115,600, I spent 69% of it on my expenses, and broken down into needs versus wants. 33% of that went to my needs and 36% of that went to my wants. And then I spent 0% on debt repayments because we are debt free currently aside from mortgages, and negative 5% went to savings because I actually withdrew from my savings more than I contributed this year. And the other 36% went to my investments this year. So starting out with the breakdown for my needs, 33% of my income was a total of $37,800 this year, or on average $3,200 per month. And that was broken down into $12,400 for rent, $1,300 for my cell phone, $6,900 for my vehicle, $4,500 for groceries, and $6,000 for dining out. I count dining out as a need because it's food and we have to feed ourselves. That's just how I like it. I spent $2,600 on health and fitness, $3,400 on my pets, and then $1,000 on fees. For my savings, I have a variety of savings buckets. I think there's like 8 to 10 of them. Some of them are joint with my partner, but I contributed a total of $23,400 this year into those savings buckets. However, I withdrew $28,700, so I actually was negative $6,000 out of my savings buckets this year. And that was largely because at the beginning of the year when the market was down, I decided to take, I think it was $7,000 out of my emergency fund and invest it instead. And that was just because I felt comfortable with the amount that was in my emergency fund. And I wanted to reap the rewards of the market being down. So I took some money out. I contributed $41,700 or $3,500 per month to my investments this year. And again, $7,000 of that came out of my savings buckets, but the rest came from income sources this year. And then for wants, I spent $42,200 or on average $3,600 per month. And this was quite high. I'd like to see this go down a little bit in 2026, but we did buy a house this year, which required a lot of expenses. And I traveled to about 7 different places. So you'll see that in the expenses here. So $6,600 of it went to shopping, $1,200 went to beauty, $1,100 went to entertainment, $1,600 to subscriptions, $3,200 to education. I signed up to do my QAFP, or Qualified Associate Financial Planning designation, and I have completed course number 1 of 6. I spent $200 on work-related stuff, $2,800 on gifts and donations, $12,100 on travel. Like I said, I went to about 7 different places this year. I'm hoping that decreases a little bit in the future, but I do love traveling, and so I don't feel bad about spending this kind of money as it's a values-aligned spend. And then $13,800 on home stuff. Again, this is quite high. We bought a house this year, so this includes some furniture, renovations, and random stuff that you need for homes when you first buy them. And again, hoping this decreases as we settle into this home. However, we do need to replace our fence next year, and I'm a little nervous about the cost that that's going to be. So that is the total spending for this year. I love being able to see this data. I think it's fascinating. I think it's interesting as you track each year, you can compare to what you spent on last year and how your income and expenses are changing over the years. And it's just really helpful to be like a reflection tool on whether you're spending in an aligned way with how you actually want to be living your life. And it helps you set up your future spending tracker or budget for 2026, knowing how you spend and what your patterns are. And it gives you some goals and things that you can work on and tweak in the new year. So I hope you found this interesting. I love doing these things. And if you are interested in doing this yourself this year, you can find this exact tool that I use linked in my bio, and you can have this data at the end of 2026.